Is the new game Maiden Cops for you? Well, let's find out. Are you a fan of old school beat-em-ups like Final Fight? Do you like looking at large-breasted anime girls in skimpy outfits? If you answered yes to either of these two questions, then you're the target audience for this fun and risque throwback brawler from the makers of Wife Quest. With gorgeous pixel graphics, wonderfully detailed levels, and a fun cast of anime girls, is this raunchy game actually the beat-em-up of the year? That's what we're about to find out when I review Maiden Cops from Pippen Games. Breaking news, the once peaceful Maiden City has been overrun by a nefarious separatist movement known as the Liberators, and it's up to the Maiden Cops to clean up the streets. This sets up a fun, albeit familiar brawler where Priscilla, Nina, and Mega punch and kick criminals across 7 of the most violent parts of Maiden City. Now, in case you're wondering, yes, there actually are men in Maiden City. They sometimes line the streets and show up in the backgrounds, but the few men who actually appear in this game are really part of the action because this is strictly anime girls fighting other anime girls. And I specifically say girls because I gotta say the average age appears to be around 15. There's no way that anybody in this game, including the mayor, is old enough to drink. But when you end up stripping back the anime girls in the skimpy costumes, what you're left with is a fun and surprisingly faithful beat-em-up. You can punch and jump and pull off a series of different combos and special moves, as well as pick up weapons and throwable objects. Each stage is broken up into several parts, all leading to a boss with another powerful anime girl. You'll also find that the 3 playable cops are markedly different, with one being fast and weak, one being strong and slow, and one being right in the middle, not unlike Hagar, Cody, and Guy from Final Fight. Speaking of which, if you've played that game, or even Streets of Rage, then Maiden City is going to look incredibly familiar. It's basically a greatest hits package of crime-ridden locations from all your favorite brawlers. Hey look, you're fighting on a subway, in a baseball stadium, on the freeway, past the sandy beach, and yes, on multiple elevators. While not especially original, Maiden Cops does a good job of adding its own personality and charm to the surroundings. These are actually good-looking stages that have multiple parts to them. Alright, while it's not gonna win a ton of points for originality, Maiden Cops gets almost everything right. It makes some wise decisions that help to elevate the familiar material. A good example of that is the block button. This is something I've been asking for from brawlers for a long time, literally decades. You're also not spending any time punching enemies off screen like so many games in the genre. When an enemy looks like it's going to get punched off screen, it hits the side and then bounces back, allowing you a chance to literally juggle the bad guys in the air. You know what? That's a really good choice. And change also comes in the form of the special move, or in this case, moves, plural. It used to be that when things got hairy, you could smash all the buttons together and our hero would do some sort of big, disruptive attack that would cost a little bit of your health. Each of the cops here get 3 different big disruptive attacks, but the good news is that it won't cost you any hit points. Instead, there's a meter that fills as you fight through the stage and can unleash them at any time. You know, assuming the meter's full enough. Each of the special moves is a little bit different, and I like that they're mapped to 3 different buttons. You'll definitely want to incorporate them into the flow of the combat, unlike a game like Final Fight, where you'd only pull off a move like this when you were in trouble. Another smart thing this game does is it offers a lot of extras to unlock. You'll earn cash as you pick up dropped objects like purses and jewelry and, yes, even panties. You can spend that cash on new music and pictures and outfits and cheat codes. And even though they can't be used when you try to get on the online leaderboard, the cheats are a lot of fun to tinker around with and give you plenty of incentive to replay the game over and over again. Visually, this game's incredibly sharp. You'll immediately notice that it actually looks like an old school arcade game, what with the rounded corners and the scan lines. However, even if you take away the filters, the game still looks the part. The pixel characters are gorgeous, and not just for the obvious reasons. I also appreciate the attention to detail in every level. Although we're going to some pretty familiar areas, the game does an excellent job of giving them unique personalities. There's a lot of world building in these stages, and I love how I was still noticing small details even after several playthroughs. Now, one thing that I didn't like about Maiden Cops is the way that it handled the items that you pick up. For a beat 'em up, there's a shocking lack of health items in the game. And you're gonna need them too, because it's easy to get ganged up on and take cheap and damaging hits. You don't even get a health recharge between levels like most games. There are really only a couple of health items, and they're few and far between. And what makes this even more frustrating is the fact that items that you might expect to refill your health, like a candy bar or a soda, will only give you cash. What's up with that? Why even have these food items if they aren't going to refill part of your health bar? Look, with barely any health items in the levels, I found myself holding back and relying on the special moves. This is especially true when it comes to the boss characters, who are always surrounded by at least 2 aggressive guards. I really wanted to get in there and kick some anime ass, but it's safer to just dodge and block until your power attack is ready to go. When it starts to impact the flow of the combat, that's how you know there aren't enough health items. This game's too stingy. There are, of course, other problems, but most of them are the usual issues associated with this style of beat 'em up. For example, it's definitely repetitive. Even with the different attacks, combos, and special moves, a lot of the game revolves around button mashing bad guys until they're dead. Personally speaking, I love that type of thing. But I can certainly understand if you find the style of gameplay to be dated and maybe even a little bit boring. If you're not already a fan of brawlers, this one will not win you over, even if you love looking at anime girls in skimpy outfits. That said, if you are a fan of beat 'em ups and you don't mind the risqué approach, then you're gonna have a great time playing Maiden Cops. This is a fun and well-made brawler that elevates the genre with a number of smart gameplay decisions and tons of extras to unlock. In a world where most games with sexy anime girls half-ass the game part of the equation, this one manages to stand on its own and show the world that a game can be sexy and still great. Imagine that! Don't be fooled by the anime girls in skimpy outfits, because Maiden Cops is a surprisingly enjoyable romp through the beat-em-up genre's greatest hits. This is a game made by people who not only love brawlers, but have actually found a way to improve on the formula, all while being a bit risque. This is a game that not only looks the part, but actually feels like those classic coin-ops. Well, I'm not entirely sure I'd put it up there with recent beat-em-up greats like Streets of Rage 4 and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge. That's okay, because the Maiden Cops are more than capable of holding their own in a fight. Hey, thanks for watching my review. If you liked what you saw here, then you should know that we post new reviews and features almost every day. Now, here's the question I have for you. Who is your favorite female action star? While the men tend to dominate this genre, there definitely are a lot of great women who can more than hold their own. I'm talking about Samus and Bayonetta and even Blaze from Streets of Rage. Let me see your picks in the comments below. In other news, we'll be back tomorrow with a review of Atari 50, The Wider World of Atari, followed by a scary episode of Review Crew. If that sounds good to you, then I strongly recommend you click that subscribe button and support what we're doing here. Until then.